And welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the operation of a few of the controls. This is by no means designed to get you up and running. I just want you to be familiar with where certain controls are and certain quirks about this camera. I've added my recorder. You can see I've got this mounted on a little stand and I've got a cable hooked to it, so I'll be able to record what the camera is seeing, and you can see that as well. I'm going to start by taking the lens cap off here. Now, the power switch you've probably already found. It's really well marked. It's right here on the top of the camera. And if I just rotate it 90 degrees, the camera will turn on. Now, if you've got the default lens on it, this 14 to 42 millimeter lens is a really good general purpose lens. It goes from a little bit wide angle to a little bit telephoto, and it's great for walking around if you don't know what you're expecting. But it is designed for traveling, so it actually has a compact mode for when it's in storage. So if I just grab the zoom ring here and start to twist, you'll see the lens grows, and then at a certain point you'll hear a snap, and that warning message will disappear, and the camera will start operating. And then I can zoom in and out with it. Now, when the time comes that I want to put it away again, all I have to do is, there's a little latch here on the side. Let me turn the camera around. I'll just pull that latch forward and then keep turning the lens, the zoom ring, and the lens will collapse. And I'll get that little warning that pops up on my screen again. All right, so let's get that out of the way. Now, on the top here, we've got several things going on. This big friendly dial here, this controls the mode that you're shooting in. Now, for the vast majority of these videos, I'm going to have this in M for manual. For the first time I send you out to shoot with this camera, it's going to want to be, I'm going to have you set it on automatic. So that just, I'm not using two fingers because it's hard to turn. I'm using two fingers so that I'm not blocking the close-up camera there. So an automatic, and you'll see on the menu screen it says auto in the bottom left-hand corner as well. And as I switch this to other modes, you'll see that it's telling me what mode I'm putting it in. Some of these we'll revisit at the end of the semester, but for most of these videos, I'm just going to leave it in M for manual. Now, there are actually two wheels here. And again, if I was holding this with my right hand, I could get to these with my index finger. The one on the front controls part of your exposure. And you can see that as I'm turning this, things are changing on the display on the lens there. And the one on the back changes other parts of it. And eventually I'm going to get down here low enough that you can kind of see what's going on in the space around me. All right. The front wheel is also the shutter release. So if I just poke that, I just took a picture. Yay! These other buttons here, this little magnifying glass, this little red dot button, this little AEL, AFL button, let's not worry about those just yet. On the back of the camera, I'm going to tilt this over and reposition a little bit. There's a whole cluster of controls here as well. This little thumb pad is an up, down, left, right directional thing, and you also have the info and the menu buttons here, and then playback and delete buttons down here. I'm not going to talk about these in any great length, but I do want to share with you just a couple of things. Now, this camera actually has three distinct menu systems. We're not going to dive into them now, but I want to show you that they exist. Now, first, clearly, if I push the menu button, as you would expect, it's going to open up a menu. And using the up, down, left, and right buttons, I can drive around in this menu and make all kinds of changes. And this menu is deep, and there's a lot of options in it. We'll explore a few of them. And then to get back out, I'm just going to push the menu button again. But there are two other ways that I can get into different menus. Now, one of which is just by pressing this OK button right here in the middle of the thumb pad. And you'll notice when I do that, that options pop up along the outside edge of the frame. On the right-hand side, there's a column that I'm moving through by clicking up and down. And then at the bottom, there's a left and right menu that I can scroll through again by using the thumb wheel left and right. So for example, I can come up here to my ISO setting and change it from 200 to 400. Don't worry about what that means just yet. And then just hitting OK or just waiting a few seconds will get you back out of that one. Now the third menu, Olympus calls the Super Control Panel. And it's this tiny little button up here beside the power switch. So when I push this button, the Super Control Panel, the SCP, as they like to call it, will pop up. And you'll see that it's just a big grid. And again, I can drive around that grid using my thumb pad and make changes to things. And some of them repeat. Like there's ISO again. I just changed that a minute ago. I'm going to change that again. But some of these, there's no other way to get to. So we'll talk about this more as we move through the semester, which of these menus is useful for what. Sometimes you can get to things more than one way. Sometimes you have to go through a specific menu. I just want you to understand right now that there are, in fact, 3 different menus available to you. The other button, you can see the laptop computer I use over here for tracking notes and whatnot. The other button that I want to make a point of mentioning to you is this info button. So as you're looking at the display on the camera right now, it's kind of cluttered. There's some stuff on the left of the screen, there's some stuff on the right of the screen, there's stuff across the bottom. As I push that info button, it's going to move through a series of options here. So if I push it enough times, I'll get to a clear display. And sometimes this is nice when you're just trying to frame the picture and there's so much garbage on the screen that you can't see what's going on. So just push the info button 2 or 3 times and you'll come to this clear screen. If I push it again, it's going to put some information up. And across the bottom, I've got some exposure information. Across the right, I can see MF, that tells me I'm on manual focus. On the left, there's all kinds of things I can see here. If I push it a second time, it got rid of something on the screen. It's called a histogram. We'll talk about that in depth in a few videos. If I push it again, even more information appears. And then if I push it again, it should cycle back to that clear one. I can actually go into the menu and customize what's on each of those screens to some degree, but just be aware that if I push that info button, I can cycle through what's on the screen. And this also works in the menu system. It also works in the playback system. It's kind of both useful and annoying depending on what you're trying to do at any given moment. Now, as I'm cycling through, I do want to point something out, a couple of somethings. At the very bottom of the screen right now, there's a light meter of sorts, and you can see it's just a series of dots with a plus and a minus on it, and then a little position indicator. And as I make changes to my exposure, you can see that that meter is changing. Beside it right now, it says minus 1.3, and you can see that there's a little line heading off to the side. There's some other stuff going on in here as well. You see that glowing orangey looking area. That's telling me stuff is overexposed. That's actually an option I can turn on and off. That light meter at the bottom is useful for some stuff. Let me press the info button again. All right. Now that light meter is still there, but we've also opened up another little rectangle that looks kind of like a weird sonar pattern there at the bottom center of the screen. That's called a histogram. And you'll notice that as I'm changing my exposure, the light meter at the bottom is moving, but that histogram is moving as well. Don't worry, we are going to spend a lot of time talking about what that is and why we would care about it, what it's for. I just want you to see that it's there. And the way to move through these options is with that info button. One more thing I should probably mention, this is actually a touch screen. I don't think it's going to work for me now because I have this recorder hooked to it, so my screen is actually not functional. But if I was using this without the recorder attached, I can actually navigate through the menu, make settings, even take pictures by tapping the back screen. I don't like doing that, but again, I grew up before touchscreens were a thing, so my preferences might not be yours. All right. We're going to start moving into this thing. The next series of 4 videos, maybe 5 videos, we're going to talk about exposure, how to actually make the image as bright as you want it to be, and what the various controls, what the consequences of using them are.